shall overcome. We shall overcome someday. For deep in my heart, I do believe we shall overcome someday. Hello there, friends. It's Mandolin Lesson 2. Yes, we're on number 2. And I would like to thank everybody for their great feedback, the very kind comments that I've received, especially from my friend Keith, my very old friend Keith, who, well, he is very old, same as me. But I was at school with Keith, and we've known each other for a lot of years. We've been friends for 30 years. 31 years, exactly.
What's that? Getting bridging the gap. Space with tail of joy. Okay, hand. What's that? Oh, bridging the gap.
Switch off. Switch the speech off on that. Sorry about that, friends. I'm not starting again. I can't be bothered. That's what lockdown does to you. It's warts and all. So, remember the last lesson? We learned our G, C, and D chords. Today we're going to learn 2 new chords, F and A. To be more specific, probably more like an A minor chord than anything, but it's a bog standard mandolin chord. Doesn't really matter too much on the mandolin. If we were on the guitar, we'd have to be a lot more specific about these things. And I also said we would have a look at tremolo. And by the end of this lesson, you will be able to play the song We Shall Overcome with much practice, with flair, and with joy, I hope. So let's crack on, shall we? Now, the first thing that we need to make sure of is picks. You don't want a pick that's going to bend. This is a very heavy pick. This is a jazz pick, and you can see it does not move at all. This is, in fact, a little too heavy. You want something slightly lighter than this if you're starting out, because a big pick is going to cause you problems with your pick dexterity. And when you're learning the tremolo, remember the scales from lesson 1. They're going to come in handy. I was going to teach you an instrumental tune, an Irish tune called the Fáinne Gaelilé, or the Dawning of the Day. But I think we'll save that for lesson 3, because your tremolo really needs to be spot on for that tune, because we'll be using it a lot. So how do we do this marvellous tremolo? Well, first things first, pick a string with your plectrum. I'm going to use my open D. And start out just by hitting with downstrokes. Now, on lesson 1, we didn't do any upstrokes at all. We just used downstrokes. Actually, no, I think we came in with upstrokes at the end. And it should be second nature, just continuously hitting these downstrokes. You can hear I can do it while I'm talking to you. It doesn't matter to me at all. The wrist is nice and loose. And I'm continuously hitting these downstrokes, these 8th notes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2. Well, that's what we're aiming for. These are actually quarter notes at the moment. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. What we're going to do with the tremolo is actually cut each note into 2 notes. So it goes 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and... So for every and, you do an upstroke with the pick. Not too hard. It should be a nice gentle motion. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and... If it helps, rest your little finger on the body of the mandolin. And when you've got so that both your strokes are equal in volume and nice and clear, and you can do this, all you do for tremolo is speed it up. In fact, if I fret a note, because this pick's very hard, And so you can actually do the tremolo as you're playing the frets. So in a moment, we'll tremolo the G scale in the second octave. I'm going to change picks because I don't think that one produces a very nice sounding tremolo. In fact, let me use a pick that probably you guys out there will be using, a Dunlop pick. The sound is brighter and more trebly, but it's much easier to tremolo with it. So let's tremolo the D scale, actually, not the G scale. So we start in the open D. And you want to get so that you can actually tremolo as you're changing strings. It should be one smooth motion, not but start out slow, same as with everything. Nice and slow. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Downstrokes. Then, when you're confident with that, bring in your upstroke. 2 and 3 and 4 and 2 and 3 and 4. And gradually speed it up. Then try fretting notes. And you can see that technique I'm doing there. I'm sliding my finger along the frets as I play. That's literally called a slide, because my finger does not leave the string at any point. So that's how we do tremolo, and we'll be using that for the intro and the ending of the song, We Shall Overcome. Now, to play We Shall Overcome, the great Pete Seeger song, we need a couple more chords. We already know the C chord from lesson 1. We already know the G chord. We don't know the F chord or the A minor chord. Well, I'm going to show them to you. So the first thing to find is the root note. You can do that with the first finger on the E string on the first fret. Now with the second finger, drop it down onto the D string onto the third fret. And that is a little bit uncomfortable. So what I do, you may not need to do this, I curl my fingers down into the palm of my hand, just to make it easier to make that grip. Doesn't sound as nice as it should. This is a handmade mandolin, and its frets are a little bit close for comfort for my hands. You might have a lot easier time with this. And you're only strumming from the D string down. The G string is left out entirely. You don't pick that string. You can bring it in as well, but my hands just... it's not comfortable for me on this little mandolin. If you can bring in your G string as well, then play an A note on the second fret. But really, you only need those 3 strings. Now, for your A chord, it's very simple. What we're going to do is take the first finger and place it, literally, we're going to bar it across 2 strings. My mandolin doesn't like this, but yours will. It's a little out of tune, as you can hear, but that doesn't matter. At this point, actually, yes it does. Set a good example here. So you're literally fretting on the second fret the G and D string together. That's a partial A chord. And then your open A and E strings form the rest of the chord. So the song goes like this. We start on C and make a little intro, just to improvise an intro. And we strum the C chord. You can bring in upstrokes if you want to accent the rhythm, or you can just use downstrokes. It doesn't matter, this is quite a slow song. We shall... And then we change chords, so it's C, F, C, C, F, C, C, F, and A, D, G. Now fit in a little tremolo here if you want. Then back to C, F, C, F, G, sorry, A, C, F, C, G, C. And as you're playing through, sing along. We shall overcome. We shall overcome. American accent is not a necessity. We shall overcome someday. Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe we shall overcome someday. I accidentally played an E chord there instead of a C, but you know what I should have done, I think. So while we're here and we're talking about discomfort, because you could hear a couple of the chords weren't quite sounding right, it's important to consider when you're playing the mandolin, get an instrument that is comfortable for you and make sure that you buy strings that you can fret. Heavier strings will give you volume, but they are harder to fret. This is only a small neck, it's not like a guitar. It's a very short, narrow neck. And remember, looks aren't everything either. What you should be more concerned about is the sound. Try a few thicknesses of pick. Make sure the mandolin has the sound that you want. That the action is good, and that you can get it in tune. This is an old beast of a mandolin, as I say. It has seen better days. In fact, I believe it's nearing the end of its life, but still got a few good gigs in it yet, as you can hear. The other important thing to consider is eventually, do you want to start gigging? If you do, I highly recommend that you get a mandolin with a pickup in it. Mandolins are not loud. Well, this one is here on the video, but in an acoustic band, you'll get away with it. But if you're surrounded by a drummer, or an electric guitar player, or a steel guitar player, you haven't got a prayer. So I think in these modern times, pick is absolutely essential. You can see here these strings are not behaving themselves. So you can see that's a very important lesson when it comes to tuning. There's nothing worse than a mandolin that won't stay in tune. And the easiest way to tune a mandolin, of course, is with an electronic tune. Ordinarily, I think I'd have given up by now, but I want you to see that it can go wrong for the professionals as well, but it's worth it when you're back in tune. That's close enough, I think. Close enough to end the video with anyway. I'm going to go and tune this up properly. Meanwhile, you practice those new chords, all of you at home, and practice the song, We Shall Overcome. Lesson 3, we'll learn an instrumental tune. We'll learn the Forni Galilei, which will use the G scale, so practice that G scale in particular. And a good tip for practicing these scales, especially for building up speed, use alternating picking on each note. So start with a downstroke, next note should be an upstroke, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. Finish on the downstroke. So that should keep you going for a week or two, and I will hopefully see you here again very, very soon with lesson number 3. Until then, keep picking and keep grinning and keep practicing.